Ladies and gentlemen, let me ask you a question. What if I told you that the very thing that makes a man chase you forever isn't how you look, what you wear, or how much you give, but rather what you refuse to tolerate? Imagine flipping the script so completely that instead of you wondering if he'll call, he's the one pacing, restless, desperate to win you back. This isn't about playing games. It's about drawing a line so powerful, so magnetic, that once it's in place, he realizes you're not like anyone else he's ever met. And when that boundary is set, he doesn't just chase you, he never stops. And there's one truth in relationships that is so often overlooked, and yet it's the single most powerful shift you can make if you want to stop chasing men, stop overthinking what he feels, and instead become the woman that he invests in, values, and can't stop pursuing. That truth is this: everything changes when you set a boundary around how you deserve to be treated. Not in a harsh way, not in a manipulative way, but in a way that says, I know my worth and I refuse to compromise it. That one boundary is what makes men chase you forever, because when you honor yourself, you naturally inspire him to rise to meet you. And so many people think attraction is about how you look, how funny you are, how charming you can be, or even how much you give. They think if they give more, love harder, stay available longer, then maybe the other person will notice and commit. But in reality, what creates lasting pursuit is not generosity without limits. It's the courage to draw a line where respect must exist. It's the moment you say, I will not beg for attention. I will not lower myself for crumbs. I will not sacrifice my dignity just to be chosen. That's the magnetic boundary that keeps him coming back. And because here's the truth, when you don't set that line, when you allow someone to call you only when it's convenient, when you accept being an afterthought, when you ignore the sinking feeling in your gut that says you deserve more, you teach him how little he has to do to keep you. And men, just like anyone else, will always gravitate toward the path of least resistance. If you make yourself too easy to take for granted, he will. But when you put that one boundary in place, when you stand up and silently communicate, if you want me, you have to show up properly, you separate yourself from every other option in his life. You become unforgettable. And think about it. Everyone wants what feels scarce. Not because it's unavailable, but because it requires something meaningful to attain. If every time he calls you at midnight, you answer, he learns he doesn't need to put effort into planning. If every time he cancels plans last minute, you smile and forgive, he learns your time isn't valuable. But the moment you stop rewarding inconsistency, the moment you calmly but firmly show that your life will not pause for someone who can't prioritize you, everything shifts. You don't even need to make speeches about it. Your actions do the talking. And men listen to actions louder than words. And that boundary says, my time matters, my heart matters, my energy matters. If you want access to me, you have to come correct. Suddenly he finds himself adjusting his behavior because he realizes he could lose you otherwise. And let me be clear, this isn't about games. It's not about manipulation. It's about self-respect. When you respect yourself enough to enforce that line, it awakens something primal in him. He begins to see you not just as someone fun to spend time with, but as someone he wants to invest in long term. And now, here's where people make the mistake. They hear this and think it means playing hard to get. They think it means withholding affection or creating artificial distance. That's not it at all. Being hard to get is performative. It's about pretending. But having a boundary is authentic. It's about living your truth. You can be warm, loving, generous, funny, and still have that one non-negotiable rule. I will not settle for less than consistency, effort, and respect. And when you pair warmth with standards, you become irresistible. And let's take an example. Imagine a man texts you only when he's bored, drops in and out of your life, gives you breadcrumbs of attention. Without a boundary, you might rationalize it. You might say, well, at least he's reaching out. Maybe if I show I'm available, he'll step up. But what happens? He doesn't. He stays inconsistent. Because why would he change when he's getting all the benefit without having to give more? Now imagine instead, you don't entertain it. Not with anger, not with a dramatic speech, but simply by not responding to crumbs. You stay focused on your own life, your own joy, your own circle. When he finally does reach out, you're polite, but you don't jump. He senses that he doesn't control your time. Suddenly he realizes he has to do more. He has to plan. He has to show effort. That's when pursuit is born. And the psychology behind this is simple. Human beings value what they have to earn. Men, in particular, feel most alive when they're in pursuit of something meaningful. If you give yourself away too freely without any boundary, he never feels that fire. But when you create that standard, you awaken his drive. You turn from being just another option into being the woman he doesn't want to lose. And the reason this boundary is so powerful is because it creates contrast between you and the noise of everyone else. Most people bend over backwards for scraps of affection. Most people settle for late-night texts, vague promises, and inconsistent behavior. But when you refuse, when you show through your choices that you won't live that way, you stand out. And the moment you stand out, you become unforgettable. He can't put you in the same box as everyone else because you've proven your value without needing to scream it. But here's the secret ingredient. You must actually believe in your worth. A boundary only works when it's rooted in deep self-belief. If you're setting the boundary out of fear, anger, or manipulation, it crumbles. But if you set it from a place of calm self-assurance, it radiates strength. He feels it. He feels that you don't need him to complete you. You choose to allow him in, but only if he brings respect and consistency with him. That energy is intoxicating. And here's where the real magic happens. When you set this boundary, you stop being afraid of losing him. That fear is what makes most people chase. But when you've drawn the line, when you know what you deserve, you realize you can't lose anything real by doing so. If he walks away because he doesn't want to meet your standard, you didn't lose, you gained freedom. You made space for someone who will. And that's why this one boundary makes men chase you forever. Because the man who is meant for you will see it, respect it, and rise to it. And once he rises, he won't want to let go. And so understand this. The power is not in trying harder to make him want you. The power is not improving your worth, bending your schedule, or over-investing in someone who hasn't earned it. The power is in the quiet, unwavering line you draw around your dignity. That's the boundary that makes all the difference. When you enforce it, you flip the script. You stop chasing. You stop worrying. You live your life fully with standards intact. And from that place, pursuit flows naturally because men chase what they can't take for granted and they cherish what they have to earn. And when you think about it, that's the paradox so many people never realize. They believe that if they hold on tighter, if they show up more, if they do everything in their power to please, that's what will keep a man interested. But the truth is, the tighter you cling without boundaries, the quicker someone slips away. Attraction doesn't grow from over-availability. It grows from a balance of warmth and strength. It grows when you show him that you're capable of giving, but only within the framework of respect. That one boundary creates space for desire to breathe. And men don't fall in love with someone they can walk all over. They fall in love with someone who captivates them, who challenges them, who makes them rise. And the moment you say, this is what I will and won't accept, you show him that you're not another person desperate for validation. You're someone he has to earn. That makes him lean in, because pursuit is not born from comfort. It's born from the possibility of loss. He knows if he doesn't show up the right way, he loses access to you, and that thought alone ignites his effort. But here's where it gets even deeper. That boundary isn't just about him. It's about you. It's about the relationship you have with yourself. Because when you don't draw that line, when you let people treat you in ways that don't honor your value, it's not just him you're teaching, it's yourself. You're teaching yourself that you're willing to settle for less, that your time and your energy aren't as valuable as his. And the more you do that, the more you erode your own self-worth. But when you decide, no more, I won't allow this, you're not just sending a message to him, you're sending a message to your own heart. I am worth protecting. I am worth prioritizing. That's the moment everything changes. And think about the most magnetic people you've ever met. They're not the ones who chase endlessly. They're not the ones who beg for scraps of attention. They're the ones who walk with quiet confidence, who know their time is valuable, who know their heart is not a toy. They don't need to scream their worth. It shows in how they move. That's what this boundary gives you. It gives you that quiet, unshakable confidence that radiates without you saying a word. And then here's the irony. When you hold that line, men often admire you even more. At first, some might resist. They might push against it, testing to see if you'll bend. But when they realize you won't, that you're not angry, not dramatic, just steady in your standard, they can't help but respect you. And respect is the foundation of lasting attraction. Without respect, chemistry burns out. Without respect, commitment falters. But with respect, desire deepens. Respect is what transforms infatuation into devotion. And it all starts with that single boundary. And now some people hear this and they get scared. They think, if I set this boundary, won't he just leave? And maybe he will. But here's the question. What are you really losing if someone walks away because they don't want to treat you right? That's not a loss. That's clarity. That's freedom from wasting months or years on someone who was never going to rise to the occasion. Boundaries don't scare away the right person. They filter out the wrong ones. And the faster you filter out the wrong ones, the quicker you make space for someone worthy of you. And the right man doesn't want easy access without effort. He doesn't want someone who will accept neglect or inconsistency. The right man craves a woman who challenges him, who brings out his best, who makes him feel alive in the pursuit. He wants someone who inspires him to grow, someone who doesn't settle. And when you have that boundary, you become exactly that. You become the kind of person who raises the standard of everyone around them. And what's powerful about this is that it doesn't require you to be harsh. It doesn't require ultimatums or angry confrontations. It requires calm consistency. It requires that you honor yourself with every choice you make. If he calls you last minute and you all burn, if he have plans you don't cancel. If he disappears for weeks and then suddenly reappears, you don't rush to reward him with your attention. That one boundary creates space for desire to breathe. And men don't fall in love with someone they can walk all over. They fall in love with someone who captivates them, who challenges them, who makes them rise. And the moment you say, this is what I will and won't accept, you show him that you're not another person desperate for validation. You're someone he has to earn. That makes him lean in, because pursuit is not born from comfort. It's born from the possibility of loss. He knows if he doesn't show up the right way, he loses access to you. And that thought alone ignites his effort. But here's where it gets even deeper. That boundary isn't just about him, it's about you. It's about the relationship you have with yourself. Because when you don't draw that line, when you let people treat you in ways that don't honor your value, it's not just him you're teaching, it's yourself. You're teaching yourself that you're willing to settle for less, that your time and your energy aren't as valuable as his. And the more you do that, the more you erode your own self-worth. But when you decide, no more, I won't allow this, you're not just sending a message to him, you're sending a message to your own heart. I am worth protecting. I am worth prioritizing. That's the moment everything changes. And think about the most magnetic people you've ever met. They're not the ones who chase endlessly. They're not the ones who beg for scraps of attention. They're the ones who walk with quiet confidence, who know their time is valuable, who know their heart is not a toy. They don't need to scream their worth. It shows in how they move. That's what this boundary gives you. It gives you that quiet, unshakable confidence that radiates without you saying a word. And here's the irony. When you hold that line, men often admire you even more. At first, some might resist. They might push against it, testing to see if you'll bend. But when they realize you won't, that you're not angry, not dramatic, just steady in your standard, they can't help but respect you. And respect is the foundation of lasting attraction. Without respect, chemistry burns out. Without respect, commitment falters. But with respect, desire deepens. Respect is what transforms infatuation into devotion. And it all starts with that single boundary. And now some people hear this and they get scared. They think, if I set this boundary, won't he just leave? And maybe he will, but here's the question. What are you really losing if someone walks away because they don't want to treat you right? That's not a loss. That's clarity. That's freedom from wasting months or years on someone who was never going to rise to the occasion. Boundaries don't scare away the right person. They filter out the wrong ones. And the faster you filter out the wrong ones, the quicker you make space for someone worthy of you. And the right man doesn't want easy access without effort. He doesn't want someone who will accept neglect or inconsistency. The right man craves a woman who challenges him, who brings out his best, who makes him feel alive in the pursuit. He wants someone who inspires him to grow, someone who doesn't settle. And when you have that boundary, you become exactly that. You become the kind of person who raises the standard of everyone around them. And what's powerful about this is that it doesn't require you to be harsh. It doesn't require ultimatums or angry confrontations. It requires calm consistency. It requires that you honor yourself with every choice you make. If he calls you last minute and you already have plans, you don't cancel. If he disappears for weeks and then suddenly reappears, you don't rush to reward him with your attention. If his words don't line up with his actions, you believe the actions. And each time you hold firm, you reinforce that line. Over time, he realizes if he wants you in his life, he has to step up. And then let's be real, it's not just men who are guilty of testing boundaries. People in general do it. In friendships, in families, in work relationships, people often do what you allow. But in romantic relationships, the cost of allowing too much is even higher because it chips away at your self-esteem. And once your self-esteem is damaged, you show up differently in every area of your life. That's why this boundary is not just about love, it's about your identity. It's about saying, I refuse to let anyone make me smaller than I am. And now, some of you might be thinking, but I've already given too much. I've already been too available, too forgiving, too lenient, and you feel like it's too late. But it's never too late. You can reset the tone at any moment. Yes, it might shock him at first. Yes, he might wonder why things have changed. But when you start holding that line, you begin to reclaim your power. You begin to show that from this moment on, things are different. And if he's serious about you, he will adapt. If he's not, he'll fade. And that's a blessing in disguise. And when you commit to this, you stop living in the anxiety of, what if he doesn't want me? And start living in the confidence of, if he doesn't want me at my worth, then he's not for me. That shift is everything. It takes you from a place of neediness to a place of abundance. You realize that your value doesn't come from who chooses you. It comes from who you are. And from that place, you attract people who reflect that value back to you. And imagine what it feels like to live that way. To walk into a room knowing you don't have to compete, knowing you don't have to bend over backwards, knowing you don't have to play games, to know that your energy is precious, your love is rare, and anyone who wants to be close to you has to treat it with care. That's what this boundary creates. It gives what I mean, our freedom, power, and peace all at once. And then here's the beautiful part. When a man does step up, when he does show consistency, effort, and respect, this boundary makes the relationship even stronger because he knows he earned you. He knows he had to bring his best. And because of that, he values you more. People protect what they've invested in. And when he invests in you, when he chases, not because you played games, but because you had standards, that's when love grows deep roots. And the longer you live without this line, the more you'll find yourself drained, anxious, unsure, always questioning where you stand. But the moment you set it, the moment you say, I won't accept less than what I deserve, you'll notice the anxiety fade. You'll notice your energy return. You'll notice that instead of wondering how to keep someone, you'll be busy living your life, and the right person will fight to be part of it. And that's why this isn't just a dating strategy, it's a life strategy. It's about deciding that your time, your love, your energy are too valuable to be wasted. It's about refusing to be someone's backup plan, late night option, or convenient distraction. It's about standing so firmly in your worth that the wrong ones eliminate themselves and the right one never stops chasing. And the moment you begin to live this truth, something remarkable happens. You stop waiting for permission to be valued. You stop hoping that someone will suddenly wake up and realize how incredible you are. Instead, you create an environment where anyone who wants a place in your life has no choice but to recognize it. You become the mirror that reflects back their effort. When they show up with consistency, you respond with warmth. When they disappear or deliver crumbs, you respond with silence. You are no longer dragged into their rhythm. You set your own. And that shift, that subtle but powerful shift, makes them pay attention in a way they never did before. And think about how most people handle love. They overcompensate. They try to convince. They try to prove. They think if they pour more of themselves into the relationship, if they show just how much they care, the other person will care too. But what ends up happening? The other person gets comfortable. They sit back and let you carry the weight. They know you'll always be there. So why should they hurry? Why should they prioritize you when you've already made them the center of your world without them earning it? And this is where people get stuck in endless cycles of frustration because they're giving everything without requiring anything in return. But when you set that boundary, you break the cycle. You flip the script. Instead of teaching someone that your love is unconditional no matter how they show up, you teach them that your love is conditional on respect. And let's be clear, conditional love doesn't mean shallow love. It doesn't mean you're withholding affection until someone dances to your tune. It means you understand that love without respect isn't real love at all. It means you know that affection without consistency isn't intimacy, it's a trap. By holding the line, you're not being cold, you're being real. You're saying, if you want me in your life, you need to treat me like I matter. And those words, even if unspoken, carry incredible weight. And what you'll notice is this: people who aren't serious about you will drift away when you enforce your line. And that's good. That's what boundaries are supposed to do. They filter, they separate the ones who are only around for convenience from the ones who are ready to invest. But the ones who remain, the ones who decide you're worth the effort, they step into a new version of themselves. They start doing things they didn't do before. They plan dates. They keep their promises. They show consistency. They bring energy. Why? Because now they feel the privilege of being in your life. They know they can't take you for granted, so they treat you as precious. And isn't that what you deserve? To be treated as precious, to be treated as rare, to be treated as someone who adds so much value that losing you would be unthinkable. That doesn't happen by giving more. It doesn't happen by lowering your standards. It happens by raising them. It happens when you decide you'd rather be alone than be disrespected. That's the moment you turn from someone who chases to someone who is chased. And now, here's another layer to this. Your boundary doesn't just affect how he treats you, it affects how you see him. Because when you stand firm in your line, you begin to see clearly who he really is. Without boundaries, it's easy to get caught up in excuses, potential and fantasy. You tell yourself stories about who he could become, and you ignore who he is today. But when you enforce your line, you strip away the illusion. You see his true colors. Does he rise to meet your worth? Or does he run from it? Does he value you enough to adapt, or does he retreat into comfort? His response tells you everything you need to know. And clarity is the greatest gift a boundary gives you. And because here's the truth, you can't build a lasting relationship on hope alone. You can't build a future with someone's potential. You can only build with what's real. And when you have no boundaries, you blur the line between reality and fantasy. You live in what if. But with boundaries, you live in what is. You stop wondering, does he care about me? And you start observing, here's how he shows up. You stop hoping for change, and you start demanding evidence. And that evidence will either confirm his commitment or reveal his lack of it. Either way, you win because you freed yourself from living in confusion. And let's not forget, the way you treat yourself becomes the blueprint for how others treat you. If you don't prioritize your own worth, no one else will. If you don't demand respect, no one else will offer it. Your boundary is not just about teaching him, it's about reminding yourself. Every time you enforce it, you're affirming, I matter, I'm valuable, I deserve more. And the repetition of that message rewires your mind. It strengthens your confidence. It turns self-respect into muscle memory. Before long, you don't even think about it anymore. You just live it. And that's why people who set boundaries walk differently. They don't have to shout their value. It's in their presence. It's in their choices. It's in the way they don't flinch when someone disrespects them. They simply move on. And that quiet power is irresistible. It doesn't just make men chase. It makes everyone around them elevate because people instinctively respect what respects itself. And now here's something you must internalize. Setting a boundary doesn't mean being rigid or unkind. It doesn't mean closing yourself off. It doesn't mean punishing people for mistakes. It simply means knowing the difference between mistakes and patterns. Everyone slips up once in a while. Everyone forgets. But if someone consistently shows you they can't prioritize you, that's not a mistake. It's a choice. And your boundary says, I won't keep rewarding that choice with my time. That's how you protect your heart without hardening it. That's how you remain open to love without being foolish with it. And so when a man meets you and senses that line, that invisible but unshakable standard, he immediately feels the difference. He knows you're not like everyone else. He knows you won't be won with surface level effort. He knows he has to bring more. And in that realization, something awakens in him, his instinct to pursue, his drive to prove himself, his desire to earn the privilege of keeping you. And once he tastes that pursuit, once he feels the satisfaction of rising to our level, he won't want to let it go. And this is why so many women who carry themselves with boundaries find that men return even after walking away. At first, he might not be ready. At first, he might resist the effort. But when he experiences what life feels like without you, when he realizes how rare your standard truly is, he can't help but circle back. And whether you take him back or not is irrelevant. The point is that your boundary imprinted on him. It made you unforgettable. But the real victory isn't in him coming back. It's in you never needing him to, because your boundary has already protected your self-worth. You're not waiting around. You're not shrinking for anyone. You're living your life fully, knowing that love is a gift, not a crutch. And from that place of strength, you attract people who match your energy. You draw in those who respect you without hesitation, those who value you without testing, those who don't need to be convinced because they already see your worth. And that is the ultimate power, to live in a way where love comes to you, not because you begged for it, but because you embodied it, to be pursued endlessly, not because you played games, but because you lived with standards. To be cherished deeply, not because you demanded it, but because you showed it was the only way you'd ever accept being loved. That's the gift of this one boundary. It changes everything, not just how he sees you, but how you see yourself, how you experience love, and how you build a life filled only with people who are willing to rise to your level